My name is George Tyson. I'm a Senior Education Advisor with North Yorkshire School Improvement Service, and I also work as EdTech Advisor for Schools ICT. Schools ICT is a traded arm of North Yorkshire County Council, in particular with servicing school networks through the technician service and also through selling hardware and software and providing solutions with strategy and technical training like today. Apart from obviously it's a bit fast paced for 21 minutes of lunchtime. NYES, North Yorkshire Education Services, is the larger traded arm which covers everything including from grounds maintenance to bus services. So as a combination of brands in the future, we're going to be known as NYES Digital, which is North Yorkshire Education Services Digital, to include schools, ICT and EdTech. This is Minibytes session 5. It's 21 minutes on this is session 5, where we're going to be using Teams for live lessons or events. Ironically enough, you're now in a live lesson or an event because this is the tool I'll be talking through today. If you want to become a Microsoft Innovative Educator, you can go to the website at the bottom there or in the chat if you scroll up, which is education.microsoft.com, and you'll get 300 credits towards your MIE status if you type in the code T-GTCA6D521. It's catchy, but we can't change the codes, so it's TGTCA6D521. It's like a phone number, you can never say it twice the same way. Okay, so I'm going to be bouncing from this. I'll come back to that PowerPoint in a moment. And you can now all see my screen. As you can see, I can see some colleagues there on camera. So if you don't want to be famous, you can feel free to turn your cameras off now. I don't mind if you want to be on or off, but you will be recorded. I'm going to share my screen quite a lot during this session. But before I do sharing my screen and clicking on buttons and things, I'm going to show you one handy little tip, which is a Windows 10 tip for changing your mouse size. So currently my mouse cursor is a small white arrow which is chasing around the middle of the screen, but that can be quite hard for children to follow or for adults to track. So if you want to change your mouse cursor settings to make something big and bold, which I'll do today, but I don't usually do, you can go across to the bottom left-hand corner and click on your Windows menu on your computer, and you get the Start menu popping up. There's different ways to go to settings. Because I've used it recently, settings is a big blue box for me on Windows 10. Alternatively, I can scroll down the alphabet until I get to S for settings. Or if I don't even want to go that far, in the first pop-up row for me, I've got settings, which is a picture of a cog. Click on the settings and you'll be taken towards where we're going to find the mouse pointer controls. A mouse is a device, so we click on devices. So it's settings, then devices, and then we find mouse and click on the word mouse. So settings, devices, mouse. I'm not looking for any of these big boxes here, but I am looking for the small blue text which says adjust mouse and cursor size. If you click on that text, it pops up a new window which gives you a great control of your mouse. So my mouse pointer is currently floating around the right hand side of the screen. If I go over this rainbow wheel, I can click on it and I can select the color. From any selections here, I can have a pink mouse or a yellow mouse. I prefer the yellow one, but each to their own. And you can change the pointer size. If you go to absolutely enormous, which is size 15, the mouse cursor becomes very visible, but very hard to use. I personally prefer for presentations about a size 3 or size 4. It's bigger than normal. You can see what you're doing, but it's not too in your face. It doesn't cover over much of the content of the screen. So once you've picked your color and picked your mouse size, you don't need to worry about clicking save because as you can see, my mouse has already changed. And I can just close the settings box there. So tip 1 with live meetings is have your mouse visible if you're going to be sharing your screen and make sure others can see it too. So have a bold color like yellow and switch it about a bit. The next tip for this is before anybody turns up, if you look in Teams itself, on the bottom of your computer row, you'll see if you've got the desktop app that it will pop up some windows. Now in this situation, we're currently in a live event, which is my right side window, and I've also got my Teams in the left side window. But what I'm looking for is not these two big pictures, but the small row of buttons across the bottom, which say available, busy, do not disturb, and appear away. Now these tools are used to tell your colleagues in school or in your workplace what your current status is. If you're currently available or busy or appearing away and a chat message comes in, where my small video is, a purple box will pop up in the way. So you won't be able to see the chat on the side. If you click on do not disturb, then it means those purple notifications do not come through and they do not get in your way. So you can see the chat clearly as it comes through. So if you're in a chat with conversations with students or pupils typing in, click on Do Not Disturb. You'll see the chat coming through, but it will not notify you each time with a big purple block. It also stops you getting notifications from emails and other tools, which might be awkward to see pop up on a screen in the middle of a lesson. So changing my mouse size is in Start and Settings. Changing my Do Not Disturb status is on Teams, and it just is in the pop-up there. And now we're going to carry on. So I've got Do Not Disturb and I've got a decent sized mouse. The first thing I want to do is make sure that I've got control over who's in my classroom, who's in my room. So we do this through the 3 dots at the very top of Teams. If I click on the 3 dots on the desktop version, if you're on the web browser version, I strongly recommend you download the desktop version because you get more tools. If you look at this, you've got Meeting Options as the second top button to click on. Clicking on Meeting Options shows you different choices. Now these meeting options here are very important to know what you're doing, especially when you've got things like the lobby in place. So the lobby is what holds you in place. If you arrived on time or early to this meeting, you will have been told that someone knows you are waiting. You need to wait here. I'll show you a picture of that now. I'm just going to flip that to there. So that's what I saw when I was waiting in the lobby. Okay, I could choose my video and audio options. I could click through my background filters by using this icon here and change my background to my school's ICT virtual background. I could turn my camera on and off and various other settings down the side. If I didn't want to have my camera on, I could change it there. If I wanted to go unmuted, I could change it there. I would then click on Join Now and be put in the waiting room. Now that's absolutely fine, but once you've got a lesson started, you don't necessarily want to have children popping up in the middle of your screen waiting in the lobby. So by clicking on the 3 dots and Meeting Options, you get this side option here, and you can change this top setting from Only Me, which should be a default, or it should be your personal choice, to either people in my organization and guests, or everyone, or one of these options depending on your purpose of your meeting. If you have children with school email addresses, then they will be in your organization if the bit after the @ sign is the same as yours. This means that if you want just you to get in, then just put in Only Me as an option. Otherwise, children might get into the meeting before you do, and that causes all sorts of trouble. So your default should be Only Me before the meeting, and during the meeting, you may want to change it to everyone or one of these 2 middle options as it goes. I'm going to stick with everyone for now because I don't want to be disturbed over the next few minutes. The next option here is announcing when callers join or leave. So this is currently selected as purple, which means yes, it is on. And that means that in the chat window, when I click on the chat and the conversation window, I can see a little notification there to say who's come in and who's gone out. So as people come in and go out, that's what the notifications are when people join or leave. You would also get a center notification if you weren't on Do Not Disturb, if that was the case. So here we're going through meeting options a bit further. Announce when callers join or leave. Who can present? Now, personally, I've set this up so people in my organisation, so other colleagues from North Yorkshire, can present if they want to. But if I change this to Only Me, that would stop the children from getting control. The alternative is, if I've got a TA or a colleague who might also be in the meeting, would be to click on specific people, and then I can select the presenters from those who I've invited by name, not by channel, but by name. So I've got Sophie and Christiane, my colleagues here. I could let Sophie and or Christiane be presenters if I change that. But if I stick with people in my organisation, anybody who's got the same end to the email address can come straight in. This slider here allows you to unmute yourselves. If I click on Allow attendees to unmute, if I slide it so it's off, it means that you cannot control your microphones to turn them on. So I get a nice quiet classroom, but it's not necessarily good for communicative work, but it may be necessary. If you click that slider at any time and click Slave, it will then stop attendees from being able to be heard. The last few here, Allow meeting chat. This is the chat bar, which I've already showed you. It can either be enabled, which means it's on all the time, even if you're not in a live meeting. It can be disabled, which means it cannot be used at all unless you enable it, or it can be in meeting only. If you select in meeting only, that means that at the start of the lesson, when you activate the meeting and let people in, the chat will work. And then when you come to an end of the lesson, go up to the very top, and instead of clicking on the red leave button, click on the drop down arrow next to it. And next to that, the arrow there, you have end meeting. Once you've clicked end meeting, that sends everybody out of the room, out of the virtual room. So by clicking on leave, it's you going as an individual. If you click on end meeting, you kick everybody out, including yourself. When you click end meeting, if the chat is on in meeting only, then the chat will be disabled once you've ended the meeting. So that's some really useful tools to have. The last one's reactions. So reactions is a new feature in Teams, which you can see on the top here. It used to be a hand up icon, but now you've got 4 different reactions you can use. These reactions are generally used to support you, but they can be disruptive if you've got those children who like to click on things at inappropriate moments. So what you might want to do is disable reactions, and then this button, apart from for me, will just be a hand up icon. The raising the hand is fine, but the emojis will be gone. I'm going to allow reactions because we'll use them later on, and I'm going to click on save. You can adjust meeting options from your diary, which I can't show you in this 21 minutes, but in your calendar in Teams, once you've set up your meeting, you can then go back into the meeting. You'll find at the top it's got meeting options, and you'll get the same set of menus, but they will be from a different area. So they'll be on a web page instead of in the Teams meeting itself. Alternatively, you can go into the meeting first and save it that way. So I've mentioned the word attendees a few times. I'm going to click on this show participants button up here, the 2 people button. And I can see here that the participants include 2 groups of participants. We've got presenters, which is myself and my colleague Sophie, and we've got 18 attendees in this situation. The attendees are there, and anybody else who's been invited by name is put down as well. The attendees have got fewer powers than the presenters. The attendees cannot unmute themselves if I control it and do not allow you to unmute. If I click that button, you'll see your own personal microphone has now got a no entry sign on. As a teacher, this is great because it means I get silence when I want it. And if a child puts their hand up by using the emoji and the hand up icon, then they will raise their digital hand. You can see mine is raised there. And I can then click on that individual and unmute them if I want to. How I would do that is I click on the allow attendees to unmute. And I can just unmute that individual if I want to. By clicking on meet participant. But what happens is I cannot actually turn on the microphone for a colleague or anybody else in the meeting. I can turn on and off my own microphone, but by just using the button at the top, but I cannot turn on anybody else's microphone. Likewise, I cannot turn on their cameras. OK, so I'm going to put my hand down. The emoji responses, if you look at the little George in the bottom corner here, you can see I've got a thumbs up which appears, and these are very good for getting a gauge of reaction and a gauge of understanding. So you can use conversational pieces like give me a heart if you understand it and can crack on with the work. Give me a thumbs up if it makes sense, but you need something else, some support. Or at the end of the lesson, give me a smile if you're happy with what you've done so far. And you can use these sort of reactions. So we've got presenters and we've got attendees. Presenters can also share their screen. I'm currently sharing my screen, but to do that, I had to click on this button up here. It looked a little bit different, so I'm going to flick to a PowerPoint slide to show you what it did look like. When I was there. So let's just start this up again. It's not that screen, it's that screen. So when I started, I had this icon here with an up arrow on to say share screen or bring up the menu. And then if I have that menu up, but I'm not sharing, I click on the down arrow to push it down again. Once the menu's up, you can see there that I've got this slider in the corner. It's inconspicuous, but it's very important. If you want to share anything, for example, a YouTube video to your class, you need to click that slider to make it go purple, and that allows you to include your computer sound. If you do not click that slider, like the default setting is on mine, then what will happen is no sound will be transmitted apart from your microphone sounds. So you can listen to a video yourself, but the children won't hear it at the other end. You can see I've also got different sections. This first one, because I'm on a one-screen computer, allows me to share my desktop, so whatever I'm seeing is what you see, and that's what I'm currently using to jump between programs quite smoothly. The next one is Windows. So if I've got different windows open with different programs running, it will show me that, and I can scroll down to see them all. I can't do this because it's a screenshot, but if I scroll down to see them all, I will then have a good chance of being able to go between different windows without things like my emails being visible to students. The next one's a whiteboard. You can have a play with this if you want to. It's a collaborative shared tool. So you click on it and then everybody has access to the whiteboard and they can draw and write on that to their heart's content. And the final one is PowerPoint. If you want to share a PowerPoint presentation, but still see the attendees who are in your meeting, use the PowerPoint functions here And if you don't see the slideshow you have available, click on Browse and then search your OneDrive or search your computer's memory or your school network drive to find the right PowerPoint slide. Because once you click on Browse, it will then put that slideshow on the main part of the screen where we're seeing cameras at the moment. And by doing that, it will bring us back to this page, but instead of having an individual, we'll have a PowerPoint slideshow there. And if you're familiar with or use presenter view, you can have PowerPoint presenter view with your notes in one part and the main slide in the other, but all the students see as the slides. When you do share a PowerPoint, there's an eyeball at the top, roughly where my yellow pointer is now, and that eyeball cursor will show you where you have control of the children following the same slides as you are. If the eye is open or closed, it will, when you hover over it, it will say that attendees follow the presenter or attendees do not follow the presenter. So if you want to keep them on the same slide as you are, check the eyeball is open or closed as it should be. You may want to turn off your camera or mute yourself if you want to. So we're going through that. We're going through muting all participants. If everyone's making a bit of a fuss, 3 dots, and I can allow attendees to unmute or don't allow attendees to unmute at a click of a button. If I've got something called Insights set up on my Teams, I can also get download attendance list, which gives me a class register of the times when someone joined and the times when someone left. It works in classroom meetings and it works in Teams where you are in control of it. If somebody else has set up the meeting, you don't get these options. So the next thing is you can change someone's status. So I'm going to pick on Sophie here. If Sophie is no longer required to be a presenter, I can click on her 3 dots and make an attendee. It will give me a prompt and it will drop her down to being in the attendee area. So Sophie's down here now. If on the other hand, I want to make Sophie a presenter, so she might be a child who's got some work to share, click on that and make a presenter. And she can go the other way back up to the top of the screen again. Anybody who's in the presenters can share their screen, can mute or unmute themselves or others, and they can do these button choices at the top on the participants menu. So let's just be wary about who your presenters are. We've gone through the meeting options by clicking on the 3 dots there and clicking on that, and we can pre-select presenters through the meeting options if we want to. I've talked about sharing screen. Currently my box is showing that I can switch off my screen sharing because I'm sharing at the moment. But this is one very important thing. I've got different views available to me. Now, if you all had your cameras on, I'll be able to see this large gallery preview. You can choose to put it on or not if you want to for the demonstration. But children who are using Teams at home or colleagues who are using Teams and they're not on your school building, if they've not got the desktop version of Teams, they will not see all the cameras available. By default, Teams as a desktop version has a 3x3 gallery view, which means you have 3 cameras high, 3 cameras wide, a total of 9 cameras. You'll then get letters across the bottom like you can see on my screen here. If you have an issue with your bandwidth, you can turn off the incoming video, and by doing that, it doesn't switch off somebody's camera, but it does mean that I can no longer see the cameras coming in. You can now see the 9x9 grid of individuals. If these people put their cameras on or anybody else put their cameras on, these grid points would be filled in with the video cameras if I activate the video again. If I wanted to go further than that, on the desktop version, if there's more than 9 cameras on, I can get a large gallery instead. If I click on that, it goes to a maximum of a 7x7 grid, so I can see up to 49 cameras at once, and that means that I can see my whole class normally. In a large gallery preview, that's not available if you're using the desktop browser. Sorry, if you're using the browser version. So if you want to use large gallery for all the class to see all the class, make sure you share your screen like I'm doing by using that there, and then click on large gallery for yourself. Together mode is a bit of fun. You can click on together mode. I'll just activate the incoming cameras again. And if you go on together mode, you can put everybody that's currently on video into a virtual environment, and you can change the scene from there in the bottom corner of the pencil to give yourself something like a bit of fun, like an aquarium, for example. And Teams will do that for us all, automatically changing our backgrounds in that situation. I'm going to get rid of that and go to one final point, which is the virtual backgrounds. 3 dots there, apply background effects. And this is really important because actually you can change your own background effect by clicking on blur or something similar. I don't live in a room with schools ICT on the wall or an art gallery, but it's a quite nice background to have. And you can select from there or you can click on Add New to add your own background. Once you click on Apply, you'll see that the background changes. So once you do this, so you just select the background that you want to have, and your background, so my school's ICT background is there. Close that, and children can do this too. Children can have the background settings changed if they want to. There's only one final point I want to talk about before we go for this 21-minute session. We've talked to the participants, we've talked through chats, we've talked through emojis and hands up. If you put your hands up in the chat window, sorry, in the participants window, the order of hands up is in the order of who clicks first. So if anybody would like to be brave enough to click their hand up. Okay, that's great. So we'll see some hands up here in just a moment. Just click once and you keep your hand up. So thank you, St. Roberts. You've put your hand up, and then we've got second place is Fran Hall here, and it carries on going through. So if more of you put your hands up, we can see at a glance who put their hands up first. So we can then address or unmute people in turn as they put their hands up. But for now, we've done background effects, we've done participants, we've talked about hands up. I'm not going to talk about breakout rooms today because there's no time. We've talked about meeting options. The final point is for accessibility. If you turn on live captions and again share your screen, Teams automatically will go through. Thank you for putting your hands up. You can put them down again by clicking the same button. Teams will take it and transcribe live what you're saying, and it will then provide subtitles. So if you've got somebody who's hard of hearing or who has accessibility issues to audio, or maybe just can't go in a room with a speaker or has a faulty sound on their computer, you can use live captions and share your screen and people can see what you're saying. And if anybody else spoke, then instead of having George T there as the speaker, it would add in the other person's name like a script for a play, and you would see the live captions. So I'm going to click on those three dots, turn off my live captions, and that is it for now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And if anybody has any questions, I will happily take them. I know it's been a very whistle-stop tour, but we only have 21 minutes and there's a lot in Teams to talk about.